What's up, guys? It's May 25th, Memorial Day. Welcome to the Bladed Wedge Show, Episode 3. We're guys who love watching golf, talking golf, and most importantly, playing golf. I'm here with my good friend, Alex Checo. How you doing, man?
Yo, what's going on, Trey? Happy Memorial Day weekend 2020 in the books.
Yeah, I know. Definitely a weird one with obviously the quarantine, but I think for the most part, people were able to get out and hopefully responsibly social distance, get some sun, enjoy some drinks, and then maybe see some water or swim in the ocean.
Yeah, I think it was definitely kind of we're seeing the ends of quarantining. People are definitely itching to get outside. I was down the Jersey Shore, and it was like COVID didn't even exist down there.
Really, people were just kind of out and about drinking and stuff.
Yeah, people are out and about. The only thing that was like really different was the bars weren't open, but they were doing like takeout cocktails.
Oh, I love that. They're doing that in New York as well.
Yeah, so it's like kind of open container policy where you can just grab a cocktail and bounce around from like going to your house, to the beach, et cetera, et cetera.
That's
so it was
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, well, as you guys can tell, Alex and I were in the sun a lot, did not wear a lot of sunscreen, which is why I'm bright red, and Checo looked like his is going to be more and more of a tan, but I am so sunburnt. I actually just got off the course, played with one of my friends, Greg, up in Harrison, New York, at a country club up there. So got out and enjoyed that, but really wanted to get to what we're doing today on the show. Number one, we're going to really go through the match 2, and then we all have an amazing interview. We talked to a Vegas odds maker around golf, specifically around how odds are set, as well as the match in general. So let's get into it. So we're starting off with the Bladed Wedge tee sheet, where we recap all tours and everything going on around the world of golf. Today, main focus, only thing we're going to be talking about, the match 2. 5.8 million viewers, 20 million raised, 6.3 million viewers at their peak. The most watched show on television yesterday. Pretty electric stuff, in my opinion. But Checo, what do you think of it?
It was one of the most viral events I've ever seen from like TV, cable standpoint. Massive audience, huge stage set. It almost, watching it, like kind of reminded me of like a Super Bowl in somewhat of a way, where everyone was kind of like throwing in prop bets, figuring out which holes to bet on, trying to understand what the formats was, and it gave us a little bit of a sense of what sports is going to be like when it comes back, in a way, which was awesome to see.
Absolutely. It was really engaging. I was watching it with some people. Some were really, really big golf fans, and some of them, this is one of the first times they've actually watched golf on TV and enjoyed it. So I think it was a really captivating audience. I think bringing in, Tom and Peyton as celebrities and really well-known names outside of the golf world was awesome. And I mean, shout out to the crew that put it on, as well as the golfers. It was super exciting. There wasn't really a dull moment the whole match. It really looked like Tiger and Peyton were going to run away with it, but Phil and Brady made an awesome charge to make things interesting. Ultimately coming up short, but it really kept everyone engaged. And there were times where I really feel like they had an open door to kind of sneak and maybe steal it.
It was a super well put together event in terms of like the technology, how everything was coordinated from like the player standpoint, and the announcers, how they were going back and forth. You could tell they really did a good job and like really put their minds together to figure out how this should operate. Yeah. And I think it was so much better than the first two. Like, the first match was a disaster. The match last week was good, but just didn't have the level of detail that this match had, in terms of, the biggest thing I saw was the cameras inside the carts, and like hearing the little mumbling, hearing the little trash talk back and forths after they hit a shot, or watching a shot. I thought that was the best part about it.
Absolutely. And what they did is they really put the spotlight on the players, as well as like the interesting talent who was announcing. Remember, I think you and I talked about after the first one, was basically that they kind of overproduced it. There was too much from the commentators, not enough from the players. I think that this was a lot better. I think that fact that they were all friends or had met before helped the dialogue, not necessarily trash talk, but more just like interesting and like people being comfortable with each other. And then, from my perspective, the Charles Barkley is always great.
Yep.
They had Amanda, I can't remember what her last name is, but she did an amazing job sideline reporting, and then having JT. It's hard not to just love JT after seeing him out there and calling Tiger T-dubs and walking around and making fun of Charles Barkley for being fat. He just killed it, in my opinion.
And Phil's video before the round was like, I thought that was kind of weird. Like, I didn't really think it was that funny. But I liked how it kind of stirred the pot earlier in the pre-match phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like it didn't really make that much sense, and it was just kind of like absurd, but it kind of set the tone of like that they're just gonna come out and like talk shit and like just be like idiots and have fun out there.
Yeah. Now, who do you think played the best?
Yeah, so definitely we'll do that for our rotating topic. So we're gonna do exactly what we did last week. We're gonna do Skinsmack MVP and then also least valuable. So for my MVP, I think this is a pretty obvious one. So I got to go with Tiger. He was just rock solid the whole day. He really didn't even miss a shot. I think the one time he put Peyton in a bunker on one of the alternate shots holes early in the back nine, he hit a 3-wood in the bunker, which that was the only time I can really remember him hitting a bad shot.
Yeah, there's like a video going around on Twitter, and it has like his drivers off the tee, and it's got the shot tracer, and it's just missiles.
Yeah.
Like each one is like dialed in. He easily played the best, and that's what even in our interview Jeff was talking about, how large of an influence playing at Medalist had towards the odds, and how that was like a leading factor in Tiger being favored despite Phil's success in the last match. But he looked locked in. And then
And if you guys, just interrupting you quickly, if you guys don't know, Medalist is Tiger's home course. So that's why Chuck was saying that it has a big factor into Tiger being favored.
Yep. And then from an amateur perspective, I think Peyton had it for me. I think he was locked in not only from the golf perspective, but also from the trash talking perspective. His little comments on the range about bringing someone to phase out Brady and like kind of distract him they were hilarious.
Yeah, that was funny. He killed it. I thought, the one thing with Peyton that was making me laugh was the guy brought his own bag of hats, and he was switching his hats every hole. I was dying laughing when he was doing that. Yeah, he's
funny.
I was kind of waiting for them to walk up to a tee and Eli to just be like sitting there. Like Peyton would have brought him in just to try to rattle Brady like on 17 or 18. I thought that would have been hilarious.
Who do you think? Speaking of Eli, do you think who's going to be in match 3? Like, what are some contenders?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think having JT in there would be awesome. Even if he's just the kind of the on-course commentator, but having him as a player, I think would be awesome. In terms of celebrities, I haven't thought that through, but yeah,
I got a couple. I think definitely Steph Curry.
Oh,
he's
Steph
definitely
Curry.
going to be in the mix.
Jordan.
He's already come out on Steph has already come out on Twitter and has said like, I want to be in match 3. So I could definitely see him being in it. I could also see Tony Romo making a play at it, and then the third would be Jake Owens.
Yep, I love all those 3.
Yeah,
Jordan in there would be sick. I'm trying to think of other good golfers that would be interesting to watch. But yeah, Steph is such a lock, and I think putting him against Romo is perfect. Both guys who are always trying to like make it in like the mini tours or like get exemptions. So it would be interesting to watch them actually play.
But the thing is, I think this match 3 was so successful, and now that they have the
template,
like the template down on how to do it, I hope they continue to like do this more than just once a year. Like I would love to see this be a regular thing.
Yeah,
No
absolutely.
question about it.
Especially in the fall and around
Yeah.
Christmas, when there's not a lot of other golf going on. I don't see why not. I mean, the guys are obviously on vacation, but I think that they would, they all live in Jupiter anyway. So I think,
Yep.
having events down there makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's so cool to watch. I thought everything yesterday was awesome, just amazing.
Hmm. And then least valuable player, who did you have there?
I think Brady. I think Brady just played really bad, but he
Hmm.
had those. He played where like he had a couple big like when he dunked it. That was insane.
Oh,
Like that was
I
a
mean,
big moment for him to step up and like hit a good shot. So him and Phil kind of like ham and egged each other, which is acceptable, and you could do that in these team formats. But I thought out of the four of them, Brady probably played the worst. There were some shots where I was like, "Holy shit! Like, how did he hit it? How did he hit it there?"
I mean, it literally took 9 holes or took 7 holes
Yeah,
for him to hit one on the golf course, basically.
yeah.
Um, I'm gonna go with. It's really tough for me because I would probably have to go Brady as well. Phil. I will. Phil played pretty well the whole time. I think that there could have been moments where he could have stepped up a little bit, especially on the back nine. He missed a putt or two to try and cut the lead. So I think that was a big opportunity. But that being said, he did play pretty well. So I would go with Brady as well.
Nice.
Anything else as kind of takeaways? I know we're both pretty interested in seeing match three.
Yeah, I think seeing match three, getting that date set, and then just moving forward, how they can take this and run with it and be more creative. Because clearly there is a want for this style of golf. So, I mean, interested to see what it's crazy that it kind of takes a pandemic for this to be created and decided and successful. But yeah, it'll be fun to see.
Absolutely. So with that being done, all the kind of celeb or charity matches are finished for the time being. Next, we're looking ahead to June 8th, which will be which is the date the PGA Tour is scheduled to come back. Next week, we'll probably be diving into that a lot more, especially around what that's going to look like, as well as any precautions or kind of the plan for it. But so now we want to move on to the interview. We had Jeff Sherman, who came on and did an awesome job. Before we get there, we are still looking for help. So if you want to be the third, help us out with social media or video editing, shoot us an email at bladedwedge@gmail.com. Give us a follow on this Twitch page as well as our Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date with what we're doing, as well as just news and golf. And then, just a reminder, we'll be back to Sundays at 8 p.m. next week. So make sure to watch us live then. And then for our guests, like I mentioned before, we had Jeff Sherman, who is the VP of Risk Management for Superbook USA. He can be found at Golf Odds on Twitter, as well as www.golfodds.com. He did an awesome interview with us. Checo and I have some experience in the betting world, but we really wanted to dive in deeper around golf specifically, how the lines are made, as well as some of his betting habits and what he thought of the bets we wanted to make for the match yesterday. So it was a really interesting interview. To be honest, Checo and I learned a lot, so I think it will be valuable for you guys to just kind of hear the questions we had, as well as hear Jeff talk through them. So without any delay, here he is, and we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
What's up, guys? Today we have Jeff Sherman, who's the VP of Risk at the Superbook USA. He resides in Las Vegas, Nevada, but the reason that you guys might know him, the reason that we know him, is from his Twitter account as well as his website, which is at Golf Odds and www.golfodds.com. So how you doing, Jeff?
Excellent. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How's things going in Las Vegas? I think you mentioned before this that you guys have been back into the office lately.
Yeah, it's slow. The casinos are yet to open. We haven't got the green light from the governor from that perspective yet, but we are able to take mobile wagers since that is social distancing. So we have a few of us going in there each day and getting content up on our wagering app at the Superbook. And trying to do a lot with golf. We're doing mini tours, things like that, all the sports that we're not used to at this time, but getting back into the swing of things and start ramping up things shortly.
That's awesome.
It's pretty easy to social distance in that office. The 4 TVs behind you is sweet.
Well, this is my home here. So
Nice.
This is up in my loft, my work area that I can watch. When it gets to the Masters, I put all these on.
Oh, that's perfect.
That is awesome. So just kind of wanted to talk quickly about your career. I know that you studied economics undergrad and then got an MBA, but how did you really get into the risk management in the sports world?
Well, I started out at the Imperial Palace in the early 90s, and I worked with Jay Cornegay and Ed Salmons there. And I went off on my own to a couple of different places, but they really fostered learning new things and doing your own odds there. So I brought that to other places I was at. And when they went to the Las Vegas Hilton in 2004, I rejoined them.
Oh.
So we put our team back together. I just grew through the industry from a teller to a supervisor to a risk manager and learned the odds-making process. And I couldn't have been in a better environment, and we brought that approach to where we're currently at the Westgate.
Wow, that's kind of a crazy story that you started off as a teller, taking the bets, and now you're making the lines. That's an awesome story.
That's pretty much the evolution that everyone has done out here. Even Jay and Ed, they were tellers too. And you just work your way up the chain. You just don't jump right into risk management in this business.
That's awesome. That's really interesting to know. And then you said you specialize in obviously golf, but also NBA as well.
Yeah, I'm a big NBA fan. I grew up in LA following the Lakers in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And so really follow the NBA closely. So, I'll make our NBA propositions and, alter the lines based on what perception is and things like that. But, we do season wins and we'll come up with our own numbers on things like that. So a lot of NBA soccer too. I've been learning the soccer market since I went over to Europe around 2000 and really taken a liking to that. So trying to get as involved as I can in other areas.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are working on Bundesliga right now, as that's one of the only sports that has come back.
Yeah, we've got the Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 up, so we're trying to expand everywhere we can at what's going on in Europe at this time.
That's awesome. And then, what really goes into? I know a lot. Like, what really goes into making the odds? I know for a lot of the games, during the NBA season, it's a lot of using of algorithms and kind of seeing the output and then having some manual adjustments. But could you talk through that process and then maybe talk through a little bit? Obviously in very simple terms around what goes into making the props, as it sounds like that's even a more manual process.
Yeah, it's just having your power ratings. Mm-hmm. We'll have a few of us in a room that just kind of make a number on a game, just like we do with NFL. In the NFL, we release our lines for the following week at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on Sunday. Oh, wow. So we just put a few of us together, make the lines, and get them up and let people shape it that way. And it's the same thing with the NBA. We'll have power ratings on the teams, and based on whether they're home, away, neutral, whatever, we'll come up with a line, and we get a few opinions on that. And usually it's not too difficult to make NBA, NFL ones be within a range. But the proposition standpoint, when you're talking about points by a player, rebounds by a player, we have a little bit more variance in that because it's game and situation specific. So we'll get a lot of input in that and try to find an average price, which we think will be fair to split opinion.
And then obviously allow people to hammer it down to the real line, basically, as people bet on either side.
Yeah, we'll get a lot of sharp play early on, especially if you're off on what people perceive to be the right line. And, that'll get us to one where we'll take higher limits closer to the game, but then we'll have the public involved in betting into a line that's already been sharpened.
Totally. And then how much does, like, when you kind of learn and figure out what that price or what that number is, how much data and history goes into calculating that number?
Well, not too much history. I mean, it doesn't matter like what a team was a year or two ago. It's, pretty much what has happened in the last week and what people's perception is on what the environment is right now is what we really try to do. So things change rapidly and we have to make adjustments rather quickly, but it's more recently. And, you might see some history as far as propositions like a team's 3-point field goals made, and we have to go back and look at some longevity into that perspective if there's any consistency we can find. But generally in point spreads, and you see it with large fluctuations in the NFL, that from week to week you'll see an over adjustment just with what happened last week, because that's fresh in people's mind and that's how they're going to bet.
Totally makes sense. And then kind of moving that into the golf world, like what you just mentioned, it really is people's perception. So how much does a hot golfer really change their odds? For example, if Brooks goes out, maybe he's not the favorite, but in the top 5, and then he wins, he probably becomes the favorite for the next major. Is that kind of generally the trends you see?
Yeah, you're always finding the golfers or whoever's hot that people are looking to bet on, just so you have to control your liabilities. You don't want to put it up too high. So someone like him, especially with a big name, and if we use the example of Tiger, you're never going to find true odds on Tiger because the public is always betting him. So his odds are going to be generally half what he really should be based on what his golf performance is on the course. So we take all those things into account. And the one thing I'd look at doing, and the sharps generally do, is if somebody comes off a win, they're usually faded the next week by the sharps, just because the price built in the next week is accommodating for what they just did and not what can happen next.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I remember, back in 2014, 2015, 2016, when Tiger was kind of going through some ups and downs. I remember even when he was hurt and hadn't played in months, he'd still be, 15-1, even though he hadn't swung at golf clubs, or 10-1. I just remember thinking, wow, this is crazy. So I totally know what you're saying there.
There were times when I got him as high as 100-1, but the way he was playing and with his injuries, he really should have been a 500-1 golfer based on performance in relation to the field. But we got plenty of support at him, and that's what you do, is you always get the Tiger support, whether he's 5-1 or 100-1, and you can't go too high.
Makes sense. And then are you allowed to bet golf outside of your, with other books?
Yeah, I can bet anywhere other than where I do the odds and where I work. It's legal to bet anywhere else in the state.
Now, one of the things, I've found betting golf, I'm an avid golfer, but betting golf just is such a difficult thing because, you have to pick the winner, right? Only one of the guys comes through. So, obviously sprinkling your bets, you're getting higher value if you do pick the winner. But what's generally your strategy when you do bet golf? Are you picking a couple guys? Are you picking 10 guys? Are you picking one guy? How do you usually do that?
Well, it really depends what tournament it is. On a week-to-week basis, I usually don't get involved in the outrights. I will in the majors because you have the time difference between them, and you can find a golfer that you think might get adjusted down during that time between the majors. But when I bet week-to-week, I bet matchups, because then you find just one golfer needing to beat another golfer, and most of the public likes the outrights because of the large payoff. But for the long run, if you're looking at actually sustaining a positive revenue stream out of this, betting matchups weekly or even props weekly, you can bet a guy to finish top 5, top 10, yes, no. So things like that are more in your favor. You only need one option to happen is a lot more beneficial.
Yep, and that probably makes sense why I lose money all the time. But one of the things I'm really excited about with the expansion of legal sportsbook, obviously for you being in Las Vegas, you've been able to have the amenities and be able to place bets, whenever you wanted to. But for us, I'm in New York, Checo's in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, so he's able to now. But for years, you really didn't have many choices. If you did, it was probably not as reputable, or just not as many options. So it'll be great as it becomes more legal to have more of those options to bet on. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We'll be in Colorado shortly, and we're hoping to get New Jersey and other markets like that. So it'd be great to be able to bring our product to people. And, with us having something unique versus other books where we make our own numbers in-house, then it gives people an opportunity to shop around and find something that might suit them.
That's awesome. And then, moving over to the match is obviously this Sunday. I saw on your Twitter that you guys released some odds. So you have Phil and Tom plus 175 and Tiger and Peyton minus 200. Now, obviously you don't have to go into exactly what went into making those odds, but does the Tiger factor have something to do with that?
Well, when I first had a price set for that, I had Tiger and Manning $1.50 and Mickelson and Brady plus 130. But when they announced it was going to be a Medalist Golf Club, which is Tiger's home, I factored that in about 50 cents. So I brought when we actually opened the price, when we went back to open the mobile wagering app, I opened minus $2 and plus 175 just based on that perspective. And then I recently added 33 propositions where you can get involved all throughout. You can bet hole by hole, where you can bet each team to win at a certain odds or the tie to happen. Such things in match play like a team to go up, go 3 up, go 4 up, go 5 up. So there's various ways to get involved in this, but from the main standpoint itself, it definitely had an effect for playing at Medalist Golf Club.
How do you factor in Tom and Peyton in the matchup? Obviously we have some limited data of them playing at Pebble, and maybe like you could potentially find their handicap somewhere. But how do you look at that?
Well, yeah, I saw Manning's a 6.4 handicap and Brady 8.1, so a small edge to Manning there. And more so, they're going to be involved in the back nine when it gets to modified alternate shot. In the front nine, the best ball, we have to pretty much assume it's going to be Tiger and Phil carrying the way for their teams. But in the back nine, when the other players have to be involved, that's when I think it can be slightly more beneficial to the Tiger Manning side of it with the advantage. So we went from that angle. But the fun thing was I put up some propositions on the first hole for all 4 golfers having a price to land in to end up in the fairway. And the tough part was pricing Manning and Brady on that, which Manning I went pick 'em, and Brady a small favorite no on that based on their handicaps.
That's an awesome prop. That's an interesting one to look at. And then, my last question there is Checo and I have been, we've been trying to, think about who we're going to be taking. And one of our hypotheses is that Phil is just more built for these types of games in terms of like the match play. You always hear stories about Phil playing Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays for big money with other pros. Is there any weight to that strategy, or do you think that we're, for lack of a better word, full of shit?
No, I think that you're going to see some support for that side come closer to the match. And if you like that side, I would play it now because I think the price is going to go down. But then I think from a value standpoint, if it gets close to $1.50 or $1.60 on the Tiger side, where I originally had it before Medalist, I think other people might find value on that side based on him playing at Medalist. So
interesting.
I think at the price we're at right now, and we're already seeing some underdog support, I think it's going to go down a little bit over the next few days.
Mm-hmm. And, in this type of format, to get someone at that much plus money when it is, it is kind of a crapshoot, right? Like we don't exactly know how much these guys are playing. We don't know how the Tom and Peyton are going to factor in. So maybe, that's a little bit of a support for the underdog as well.
Yeah, and we saw it in the first match in 2018. It was priced similarly here in the $2 range, and Mickelson ended up winning it in extra holes. And that's another prop I put up is, will this one go to extra holes? So you can get 4-1 on that if you think there's going to be a repeat.
I just hope they play better than the last one. It was definitely an interesting one to watch. A little bit slow, I would say, in the previous one.
Well, Mickelson came out with like something the other day where he was like basically guaranteeing that it was going to be much better than their first match. He was like, Tiger and I were a little reserved the first time around, but this time I can guarantee that it's not going to be that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I think they'll be more comfortable in this setting too. And, one interesting thing is I just found out this morning that the 5th hole is going to be a 1-club challenge like they did in the skins game in Japan. So on the price for that hole, I had the tie a favorite. Now I had to change it to plus money on that because there's going to be a lot more variance playing with 1 club by each of the golfers.
That's going to be awesome. I'm really glad they're throwing that kind of stuff in there. It's going to be interesting to watch, but it can't make it. It's definitely harder for you to price it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we have to be on our toes on that. There might be some more information that comes out the next couple of days on some nuances like that I'll have to alter some prices for.
So now, let's say that information gets released to the public, where, hey, let's say all of a sudden number 9, they're only going to use their putters. Hypothetical, obviously. How are you hearing about that information, and how quickly are you able to price that in?
No, we're pretty responsive to it because it's available on Twitter.
Yep.
Once it breaks, you pretty much find it out there as long as you're finding the right people. And, I follow a lot of people in the golf community, which I can get that information like I did today. So I'm able to adjust before we get any wagers on it. Just like we're following Twitter for NFL injuries, NBA injuries, and generally we can get it slightly ahead of what the public does.
That's awesome. So, Checo, do you want to go through rapid-fire questions as we're running out of time here?
Yeah, absolutely. So just some questions, kind of pick your brain about some ideas in golf. So I guess number one would be favorite course you've ever played.
I haven't played too many, but I had the honor of playing Ballybunion in Ireland.
Oh.
And we actually got there the day that Michael Jordan was finishing up in 1998.
Really?
And so I saw his round finish up. I went out there and played, and the unfortunate thing for me is I play so infrequently. I know I shot in triple digits. I lost 12 golf balls in the knee-high rough, so a lot of fescue there, and that was a challenging one for me, but it was a lot of fun playing that.
That's what a story.
Yeah,
You're,
that's
I don't
sick.
play that much golf. I haven't played many courses, and then you come out with Ballybunion after Jordan. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
got some
crazy.
good pictures of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Best club in your bag. Do you prefer, are you better driver, better putter, better with irons?
Myself, I'm better with the putter. I can't drive it very well. I'm always in the rough, and the irons is tough for me too. I play so infrequently, just gauging the distances. But when I get on the putter, I can generally get it close enough. And I think the last round I played might have been in 2018 or 2017 when the Wynn Golf Club out here, and I parred 18 with a long putt. So I was proud of that because as infrequently as I play, I don't expect to get pars.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Favorite PGA Tour tournament or favorite golf event during the season, the PGA Tour season?
Well, for me, it's hands down the Masters. I mean, just the tradition of it, the course, the aesthetics, just how much it means to the golfers. And then we price up over 100 propositions. So it's a fun involvement from booking it, watching it, and then even betting it myself.
Definitely. And who's your favorite PGA Tour player?
Patrick Cantlay. That might
Ooh.
surprise some people, but to me, he offers the most value in relation to the top golfers. We're finding him at 25 to 1 range. And I actually had a decent wager on him for the Memorial last year when he cashed that, so it bought us some new couches. So
Nice.
we call them the Cantlay couches.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
All right, so that's the last of the rapid fire questions. Just one more before we go. Do your friends make you establish or ask you to establish odds on a lot of different things? Are they like, all right, we're gonna go play golf? What's the odds? Or with your handicap, what's the odds here? Do they have you do that kind of stuff or not really?
Yeah, more so than just golf. They do it on everything. I mean, giving each other beer quicker, anything that we have. So
That's
it's
what
a
I
lot
would
of
be
fun.
doing
I mean,
if
I
I
would
was.
even get my wife involved, and she's making odds herself on some stuff.
That is awesome.
That's great.
All right, Jeff. Well, really appreciate you coming on today. This is super insightful, and we'll definitely be hopefully having you back on again as we get closer to some of the bigger tournaments to talk about not only the top guys but also some of the cool props that you guys are putting together at Superbook. So really appreciate it, and stay safe in Las Vegas.
All right, thanks, guys. You too.
Thanks, Jeff.